Casement windows are not like double hung windows. They're just not, you know. And I'm actually doing this job because our subcontractors didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it, you know, because, you know, casements are different. You know, double hung windows, they go up and they go down. They slide in these tracks. You know, the motion is very limited. They work very, very well. Casements, on the other hand, they open up like doors, right? And so on the hinge side, you know, that's locked in place. But this open end here, you know, it's hard to get right, you know. And if you're gonna do any work on those, you have to know what's going on. It's like they're like mini French doors, right? And and to work on French doors, let's put it this way. In carpentry circles, you know, you start off as a helper, you learn this, you learn that, circular saw, chop saw, all this kind of stuff. You have somewhat arrived when you've gotten to the point where you're able to, number one, hang doors, hang new doors in old openings, hang French doors, double French doors in old openings, you know, and have them meet up right. When you can do that, you've somewhat arrived as a carpenter. Well, casement windows, especially double casements, are just mini versions of that, you know. And so it's high level carpentry that you're doing when you do it. So, you know, a lot of window restoration people, window restorers, they get really hung up on a casement window. And honestly, it just takes developing your chops. I tell you, the best book that I've read on casement windows, because there aren't any casement windows, it's a door book by a guy named Gary Katz, and it's Katz, K-A-T-Z, and it's just an old book. It's called Hanging Doors or something like that, and it's got everything you need to know about how to work on casements in it. And that's the book that I read when I was younger, and you know, took me to the next level. And you know, if you're going to do window restoration of any kind, you know, well, with this beep 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 and stop. If you're going to do casement work, okay, you're opening up the door for really complicated yet rewarding work, okay? Because when you can put casement windows in an opening and they swing and they work, all that kind of stuff, it's very rewarding, and but it's hard, all right? So on this job here, the casement windows are just rotting, right? Because they're on the front of a house, the water just pours down on them. So we've made some new Accoya sash that we're going to use to restore this opening, and I have to fit those in the opening, but the sill is also rotted away, and it needs, you know, it needs work. I guess that's what I'm going to show you now, is what that's all about. I kind of have to be gentle with this, because although I have new sashes I'm going to fit to this opening, after they're fit, I'm going to then put the glass in, then glaze them and paint them and stuff like that. So meanwhile, I'm going to put these guys back in, so I can't just tear these up and pull them out. But just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here, look at that. That is nasty. See that? Okay. That is fungal rot of the highest order. All right. Perfect. Okay. I've got it there. I gotta be careful because I've also got it here. You can see how spongy that is. That's like super sponge. Then it goes all over. Oh, see it? You can see it moving. Somebody's bondoed it for a little while, so give it a little bit more life, but this is ready to go. I mean, but you know, I gotta be really careful when I take it off. So I'm gonna take these guys off, and I'm gonna fit my sash is really quick. So I can, a lot of times you want to use a nail set for this, but I'm going to use my bar right now because I don't know where my nail set is. I thought I was. Let's see. Ah, perfect. I'm just gonna measure, see what my opening is here, and it says 61 7/8, give or take. And that would be a little bit long. So that side's 62. So I am gonna go. Oh, about 61 7/8 to try it. So here what I'm doing is I'm measuring that length here, and I'm measuring it down here at the bottom, cutting off the bottom of the sash at an angle. I've clamped it right there because I want, when I cut the bottom off, I want that line to be across the both of them. You know what I'm saying? So that you know, so it just continues. You know, you don't want it all jaggedy and stuff like that. So I got my handy dandy homemade saw guide that I used. This is not a Festool, this is Steve Quillian. So there are those who know how to cut straight with a regular circular saw, and for everybody else there's Festool. All right, so here's 10 degrees here. All right. Okay, so now I got to trim them for width, and I measured over there. I got 36 1/4. What do I have here? Well, I got 36 1/2 between those hinges, so that's pretty good actually. So I might not have to trim them for width at all. So, same thing. But that is 36 1/4 up there. Hence the problems you find fitting casements. So I've got this trapezoidal shape here. What do you do? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out, huh? So here's what I see. Okay, I've got a gap right there. It's about 1/8 of an inch. Up top, I've got it's just about touching, and it's looking good on this side here. Trying to push this guy over a little bit. This guy's touching there. Okay. So look, and there's various situations you run into, but if I'm tight right up here and I've got a gap at the bottom, that tells me the bottom, if I like the gap, that has to stay the same, and I have to spread this apart, right? Okay, and so what I gotta do to spread it apart is I have to take a little bit off the top here down to 0, and a little bit off the top there down to 0, and that's, you know, at an angled line, but just like a slightly angled line, you know. And so how do you do that? Well, that's why you're here. This is a just a regular handy dandy power planer, I'm kind of convinced that they're all made in China and they all work about the same. I think that, you know, maybe you can get like a really high end one. You know, you can go Festool, get the vacuum, all this kind of stuff. But me, I'm just going to trim it down with this guy. So look, the cool thing about this is, look, see, it's got a dial on there with all these numbers, and that 1/64th takes off a 1/64th of an inch, and that 32nd takes off a 32nd. You know, when you that's how much it cuts when you pass down the piece of wood. You can take off a 16th, or you can take off even a 5/64, which is, who would do that? I don't know, but I'm going to stick with like a 16th. Now look, if I want to cut off a 16th, right? If I cut it all off at once, then I don't like it, right? I'm gonna go over here to a 32nd here, and I'm gonna do 2 passes at a 32nd to equal a 16th. So I'm gonna make 2 passes with this planer. The first pass, I'm gonna go to about here. The second pass, I'm gonna go to about here, and I'm actually gonna do a 3rd pass to clean it all up, to smooth it all out. But that'll give it a taper, and a taper is like, you know, a diagonal or a trapezoidal kind of shape. Okay, so now I'm going to switch it to a 64th, very, very light, so I can take off the rest of it here. That last pass kind of blended in the first 2 passes. All right. Oh, hey, that actually looks pretty good, I think. Now, then my gap at the top and my gap at the bottom, pretty much the same, right? And so I still think I'm pretty tight on the edge here. So I'm going to do a couple of different things. Now that I've got this margin in the middle pretty much the same, now I'm going to kick them out a little bit further from each other by taking a little bit off of both sides, but now all the way down. So, but before I do that, I'm going to mark where my hinges go, so I can cut my hinges in too. Right there, hinge there, boom, right there. I like it. Says. Perfect, it says. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and take and shave that down 1 whole pass, just as my little insurance that I know it's going to fit. So what this is just a simple way to hold my sash in place while I cut in the hinges. Now, you know, I made my marks here, okay? So now I'm just going to square them up, okay? Boom, okay? I'm going to cut these guys out with a router. I've got to get a test fit hinge, and it's still on here, and it won't take me long to get it off, I don't think. Let's see. Okay. This guy goes, right there. Boom. Isn't that nice? Oh yeah, so like, perfect, he says. I'm just gonna cut my line right there with a utility knife, and what that does, that severs the hairs. I'm gonna use a router to cut this whole thing out, and that spinning action wants to throw hairs up but when you sever them with a knife, it limits what it can do. Okay, there we go. Put it in there pretty deep, like that. Okay, boom. Okay, get my other one. This is my router, and I'm going to use the router to hog out most of the hole here, and I'll finish it up with a chisel, a chisel actually. A chisel is a razor sharp chisel. A chisel is just a regular sharp chisel. So, all right. So I got this guy here. He's going to stay. Was that just got everything down to a consistent depth really quick. And now I've got the chisel. I'm going to stick it in those knife marks I made, and then I'm just going to finish it off really quick. Bam. Okay. What the router does is it gets it down to that consistent depth really, really fast. Boom. Okay, and then the chisel just goes in and cleans it all up. Remember that razor knife line I marked? That's where I put my chisel. So it does two things. It keeps the hairs from the router from pushing up. I see these hairs right there. Okay, those hairs. If you have that line right there, they won't go beyond that line. But if you have, it also creates a nice spot to put your chisel or your chisel, I guess. Check this out. Okay. So the top fits pretty good, but my bottom hinge needs to drop down a little bit. Okay. So that's the importance of not putting all your screws in at the same time, so that if you need to adjust, you can. So I'm gonna do that real quick. I gotta do this up. There we go. That works. Boom. Boom. So nice. Fitting casements is probably one of the more challenging aspects of window craft, okay? And I don't really expect that by watching this video you will have mastered the art of it, but maybe you will be introduced and will know some of the processes and the things you have to think about in order to get it done, okay? So, stick with it, try it out, take your time, look at it, think about it. And, casements are very doable. They're just, really, really involved. So thanks for watching. Love you guys. Steve Quillian from Wood Window Makeover and the General of the Artisan Army. Over and out.